maximum that we can. So I would now request Ajit Ji to kindly take the session forward, and I hope this webinar will be a useful program for all our participants and all our partners and beneficiaries. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Rajat. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all the speakers and the participants, also the Gramiam team. Today, really what Rajat had said, we are going to discuss a very some prominent issues. And the heading itself says that we have two prominent topics, like agriculture and environment. So we can't segregate one, this interdependent on it. So in the first session, which we are going to discuss, is conserve and enhance biodiversity and ecosystem services. So in this session, we have with us Dr. N. Krishna Kumarji, who is presently the president of VYK International, South Asia. So with a brief introduction, I request him, as presently he is the president of VYK International South India. He is the former head of Forest Force, Tamil Nadu Forest Department, Director, Institute of Forest Genetics and Tree Breeding, Coimbatore. He has also served as country coordinator, Afrogen, Strengthen Forestry Research in Southeast Asian countries, organized an international workshop on handling of FGRs, prepared the first country report on the state of forest genetic resources for submission of FAO for inclusion in state of world's forest genetic resources. He has also been the chairman task force on forestry crop, PPVFRA, that's the government of India. So I think the person who has been working with has worked with Forest Department. Also, presently, he is working with VYK International, who is basically works for forest. So I think that the person who is involved in his whole life in this ecosystem, this is the very perfect and suitable topic for this personality. I request Krishna Kumar sir to just share his experience on this topic. Krishna Kumar sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ajit, for that wonderful introduction about me. Mr. Rajat Thomas, who set the tone for today's discussion. Panel members, Mr. Haribai Mori, Mr. Diravyam, Dr. Jayaraman, Mr. Udeshankar Singh, Mr. Narayanan, Mr. Prabhakaran, and Mr. Arvind Babu, our Deputy Secretary General, if he's around, and all the members who have joined today, more than 156 people. I should at the outset congratulate Vishwa Yuva Kendra and Gramiam for having thought of such a nice topic for discussion today. And this is really a topic that needs to be sensitized, and the youth and the farmers and all others who are interested in nature and agriculture should really start thinking about it. We all know that we are celebrating our 74th independence tomorrow. And in the last 74 years, agriculture is one sector which has really supported the Indian economy, the society, and it has also faced a lot of ups and downs. It's not that there has been glory because it has fed so many mouths. At the same time, the sector itself has had its own problems. Yet we find that our country is very proud because we've had the green revolution, the white revolution, the blue revolution, and agriculture is rightly the backbone of our country. Today also there are a lot of programs by Niti Aayog and almost all sectors for promoting agriculture. Agriculture is very important for livelihood security, nutrition security, food security and health of all the countrymen. It is time that in the times of COVID, we reinvent agriculture, because there are new trends coming up like reverse migration, people going into the villages, and there is a need for relooking at agriculture. We all know that agriculture that is practiced today, called the industrial agriculture, has its own problem of over-fertilization, the burden of over-fertilization, and other ecological ramifications like the pest problems and overdose of fertilizers in the soil, etc. The industrial agriculture itself, I think, is in Western borrowing. So what is really required today? How do we bring about a compatible revolution in the agriculture scenario? And how can the environment that is neglected sometimes come into the rescue of better agriculture? How do we think of compatible agriculture, ecologically sustainable agriculture, technology-driven precision agriculture? At the same time, see that the farmers, it becomes also farmer-centric agriculture. People today are increasingly talking about organic farming, talking about integrated farming. But the question today is, how do we really build the ecological fabric into the agriculture system so that it doesn't really start misusing the environment and overusing the environment? So what we really want is a regenerative agriculture and successional agriculture. And that is where in 2003, people did talk about eco-agriculture. Can that come into the being? Because eco-agriculture, you all know, is a blend of all fields of forestry, agriculture, fisheries, water security, all that put together in a landscape. So, and then how do we infuse biodiversity and agrobiodiversity, particularly for the sake of the restoration of agriculture? Now, these are all important issues. I would really like to, before starting, just to tell some of you that biodiversity itself needs a better understanding. The definition of biodiversity is that it is the variation that exists within the populations, which is the genetic variations. It can also be the species variation, the difference between two species, and also the ecosystem variations. This variation and variability is very, very important for the development of a country. And fortunately, India is blessed because we have so much of variations in variability in terms of genetic variations, species variations, because our Western Ghats, our Himalayas, they've captured so much of wildlife and forests, tree types, and herbs and shrubs. We also know at the same time that our forests and ecosystems are under tremendous threat. I'll come to it, but we should know that the ecosystem has got its own strength. The so-called goods and services offered by ecosystem. There are 4 broad categories of support that they offer, what is called as the provisioning support, the regulating support, the cultural support, and they themselves acting as supporting the other environments. Now, when you take provisioning, we know that without biodiversity and good forests, where is the water? Where is the food security that we talk of? Where is the fiber that we talk of? The fuel? Because I remember the population, pollution, poverty, the 3 Ps that we used to talk as school students are still, though to a large extent we have come out of it, but they are threatening us during COVID times. We also know that most of our medical industry, today if you see the one sector called the plywood sector, there are more than 13 lakh people employed in it. And let us also know that we have not really understood our forests so well. The wealth within the forests are not really so well understood, because every day we are unraveling mysteries of forests and new species are being unearthed and new species are being found out. If our export of medicinal plants and our medicinal plant trade today itself is something like 60,000 crores. So all that is within the forest, and that is how we have the Biodiversity Act that has come into play in 2002. We also know that today's the drugs are mostly plant-based, with the 74% of the plant supporting drugs. And then we have the fungi 18%, vertebrates 3%, and 80% of our medicinal plant is all plant-based. Our medicines are plant-based. And we also know that 90% of the collection is from the wild. So to a large extent, our flora is under threat. And 92% of the flowering plants need insects for pollination. And 70% of the agriculture crops needs insects for pollination. But today, with the unsustainable practices, we are losing the so-called species that we have that are very important for the dynamic ecosystems to exist. The threats to biodiversity are pretty large. And I find by 2050, when we have 150 crore mouths to feed, our pressure is going to be really high. Today, during the COVID, one sector that is found to be doing very well, normally well, is the agriculture sector, because it is not unlike the other sectors which probably the lockdown has affected. This sector has not suffered so much. But at the same time, this year is called the year of biodiversity. The World Environment Day said that we all should start celebrating biodiversity. And what is really important is that people should start believing in nature-based solutions. This is what UN had to tell us. And then I still remember the speech of the UN General Secretary when he told us that build back better biodiversity. What we really need to concentrate is on biodiversity to see that sustainable action support. Today, you also know that we have the 17 goals, the UN's 17 goals on sustainable development goals, and most of the goals are centered around biodiversity, forests, and sustainable living. For these things, it becomes very important that when you talk of no hunger, or when you talk of no poverty, of sustainable goal, all this requires strong biodiversity backing. Similarly, goal number 12 on sustainable consumption and production, goal number 13, climate change action, goal number 14 on ocean life, and goal number 15 on life above land. All this calls for prudent actions on forests and how do we really conserve them and protect them. A little before our COVID, there was a very interesting report called the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystems. This is like the IPCC for biodiversity. I do not know how many of you have read it, but IPBES very clearly pointed out certain things. The report, which is a combination of almost 1,300 papers with 400 scientists working all over the country, they said that 10% of the insects world over are at risk. It also pointed out that two problems, the economic issue and the climate change, the two twining problems, are the cause for almost 1 million species on the risk of extinction. Almost 8 lakh species have been deciphered. And if out of this 1 lakh species is on risk of extinction, this only points out the alarming trends that exist today. This is a little before the COVID. And COVID, though, in the last 3-4 months, we've had a lot of, what's up going on, that all the habitats are restoring and everything is going good. But I do not know, post-COVID, the type of pressure, the type of food pressure that we are going to have, the type of agriculture pressure, what is really going to happen to our biodiversity? Because there is definitely going to be pressure is what I see. The report also said that nearly 5 lakh plants and animals do not have support habitats and they are under serious threat. And another 2 degrees rise in temperature can also be detrimental for 2% of the flora and fauna can get wiped out. So modern civilization has definitely played a very significant role in wiping out biodiversity, which is our natural capital. The natural capital, on this natural capital, because human beings are the social capital, on the natural capital depends all the so-called agriculture. And that's why we always say agriculture is, forestry is the foster mother of agriculture. You also know that India is so rich in biodiversity. We are always proud that we have gone on very many discussions with various countries, and all of them ask us, what is it that you have? They may be able to give us technology, but what Indians are proud about is that we are able to give, we have this germplasm. So any country would come to India for the germplasm that we have. The Western Ghats and the Himalayas, they all team with germplasm. Let me just recapitulate for many of you that India is a growing and a significantly important country, but we have 18% of the human population in the world. We have 16% of the cattle population on 2% of the global area, and only 1.5% of the forests of the world are in India. But this 1.5% of the forests, there are 16 major forest types, and these forest types have innumerable vegetation within. So with the sort of pressure that we have, by 2050, I think the 150 crore mouths that we have to feed, and then 35,000 ton crores, 35,000 ton crores, the sort of food grain requirement that is anticipated. What will happen to the so-called wildlife within the forest, the biodiversity within the forest? We know right away that 75% of the land is under stages of degradation. 40% of the oceans are in the stages of degradation. We also know that 50% of the rivers are under threat. Many of the rivers that we talk of, there are reports of 446 rivers in the country stretching 2 lakh kilometers. And all these rivers, I can tell you at least some of the rivers that we know are under really dangerous situations because either sides of the rivers have been industrialized and a lot of changes have taken place. The vegetation is all going. So what is really today lacking is the loss of pollinators as a very, very serious issue. And we also find pollution another very serious issue. One other thing that the report has brought out is that the fertilizers from the agriculture has almost killed 400 zones in the ocean where the oxygen is almost in very poor state. And these so-called ideal zones are without oxygen in the coastal waters stretching to 245,000 kilometers. So we know that the agriculture, which depends on biodiversity, is under the threat because if biodiversity and agriculture do not work together, there could be a lot of problems. What is ideally required is diverse habitats. What we really require is diverse habitat. The industrial agriculture, we have only looked into a few crops like wheat or paddy, and we want, with our specialization and reliance too much on the improved crop varieties of these two species, we have really threatened biodiversity. Yet let me tell you that the genetic resources that we have, the so-called agriculture genetic resources, the forest genetic that is within the forest is pretty good, and it really needs to be conserved. To the FAO, we had given a report that India has around 2,800 species of trees. And the world over, there are 1 lakh odd trees. And all these trees, we only know around 130 trees which have been domesticated, but yet there are so many trees that needs better understanding. So by the time we domesticate all these species and bring it for economical importance, which are called as the forest genetic resource, many of those species are depleting or the resource is getting neglected because we don't have enough monitoring, we don't have assessment of what is happening. Today, India also doesn't have enough taxonomists to go and study, the plant taxonomists or the animal taxonomists, and to go and really study, though we have a pretty number of engineers coming up everywhere. That's a very good sign for the prosperous country. But we also need, on the other side, the biological science to build up studies on these aspects. So 1/3 of the land is used for food in the country, and that 1/3 of the land, which is almost 25%, is under serious threat. So what really required is a diverse land with the so-called mixture of fisheries, farming, and diverse crop patterns. This is what we should be looking for. And let me also tell you that India is very proud that because we have 7.6% of the mammals, we have 12.6% of the birds in the country, of the world, we have 6.2% of the reptiles, we have 11.7% of the fishes, and 6% of the flowering plants. So this is why I say that our wealth, we are sitting on gold mines, and these gold mines of biodiversity have to be protected in whatever way possible. Article 48 and Article 51A of the Constitution says that it is our responsibility to protect the wildlife and biodiversity. It automatically has brought in that. You also know that under the genetic richness that we have, it is just 8 crops, the so-called barley, beans, groundnut, and rice, maize, wheat, that is providing 53% of the calories. And it is just 5 animals like pigs, goats, and poultry that is supporting all the protein that is required for human beings. So all this few genetic resource that we understand is this something that is giving us the food. But there is so much still within the forest that have to be unraveled and put to good benefits of human use. And every day, new things are being found out. So I would say that there is a tremendous lot of things to be done. I request you to kindly read an interesting book of 2003 on eco-agriculture, written by Jeffrey M. Neely and Sarah Sasha. I happen to just go through it. The book says that the title of the book is Eco-Agriculture, Strategies to Feed the World and Save Biodiversity, 2003. It says that at one point in time, urban development, mining, infrastructure construction, industrial pollution, energy development were considered as the greatest threat to biodiversity. But today, the scenario has changed. It also says that agriculture, because of the so-called you know, the way the unsustainable agriculture practice, agriculture itself is one of the primary threats. And it's time that we mainstream agriculture into all the cultivation practices. You can ask, what is the threat that agriculture is causing biodiversity? We definitely know that agriculture has got problems like it can bring about erosion. All the biomass can get moved out, and because of wind erosion, water erosion, there can be chemical degradation because all the fertility declines because of high inputs of fertilizers that is coming. There can be salinization, increased alkalinization, there can be desertification and eutrophication. There can also be physical degradation like compaction of soil, crusting, scaling of soils, waterlogging, aridification, and lowering of the soil surface. All these are the threats. So ultimately, friends, the environment, which is the atmosphere, lithosphere, hydrosphere, and biosphere that you've studied in schools, or the abiotic and biotic features, are something that we all have responsibility to it, and we have to protect it. There are a number of ways in which we can do this, and I think VYK, Gramium, the OISCA, the organization that I represent, they're all doing something. And government is also doing yeoman service for protection. But I'm given the task of suggesting as to what are the steps that we can do for enhancing biodiversity and ensure that the ecosystem services enhance. Because the ecosystem goods and services from forests, as I told you, the provisioning services, the regulating service, cultural and supporting services are something that we need to always get worried about. And therefore, in order to enhance the biodiversity, something as people that we should do are, I'm trying to list out a few things that we can all do. Just let us not leave the whole thing to government, but everyone, many NGOs, as Rajat listed out, there are plenty of NGOs, and the people, the youth particularly, all of us collectively can do good many things. I think organizations like Gramium and the Vishwa Hindu Kendra, they are educating the youth. The OISCA, from the organization that I lead, itself has got a very good program called the Children's Forestry Program, where in 1,700 schools, we have created medicinal plant gardens. We have also planted trees. So like this, I think all the NGOs must be doing something like this in supporting the government. The other thing that we should think of is agroforestry. The agroforestry policy 1914 is already there in place, and agroforestry policy, I think the order of import of wood into the country is something like 60,000 crores. All this can be set aside if we can have what is called as syntropic agroforestry, where agroforestry in tune with nature, so that food security, wood security, livelihood security, and water security can be assured. This is something that we should think of, how to build agroforestry into mainstream into our forestry practices, so that biodiversity is also conserved. We should have something called what is called a successional agroforestry. Government of India's slogan today is wood is good, plant more trees, use more trees. And so this again is a slogan that has to be taken very seriously if we have to tackle climate change. All of us have a role to participate in the 2030 agenda and see that we all become join hands with the government to see that agenda 1, 2, 12, 13, 14, 15, which are very important as far as biodiversity is concerned. All other things are also dependent on biodiversity, other agenda. So we have to see that these things are taken out. Biodiversity itself, in the agriculture areas, we have the agrobiodiversity. At one point in time, agriculture used to have 50% of the biodiversity. I still remember when I worked in the Annamalais and Nilgiris in the Western Ghats, the farmers themselves used to leave a huge buffer of land between the forest and their forest boundary and their own land. They always used to say that let animal come freely graze a bit and move out. So that sort of a buffer was there. Today, agriculture has almost gone into the boundary, and then within the forest also there are pressure. And that is why today man-wildlife conflict has become such a serious thing, because with animals coming out, almost all animals coming, elephant coming out, and then predation, all these things are becoming serious. That if we can take care of our biodiversity within the forest and the tribals that are living within the forest, the fringe villages that are on the outside the forest, much of the biodiversity can be protected and conserved, because there is a whole lot of knowledge available with these people. The next thing that probably we should do is enhance agrobiodiversity. You know that agrobiodiversity holds a lot of resources that are important for agriculture. This needs to be protected. And people also have to understand, particularly the youth, the National Biodiversity Authority is there in Chennai. Every state has got the State Biodiversity Authority. Every village is maintaining and blocks are maintaining the biodiversity registers. These things are very important, and biodiversity registers are capturing all the local biodiversity that is available. So local actions are required, regional actions are required, global actions are required for biodiversity conservation, and this is where all of us have to work together. Biodiversity can also be conserved through actions of government, all the institutes, departments like ICR, ICFRE, the research institutes, universities, colleges, schools. Everybody should come together, because it is just not the responsibility of one sector to look after agriculture, forestry. It is a resource that we all need to take care of. And we need to have clear-cut land use policy. I remember for the last 35 years, this is something that we've been talking of. It is very important. Today, post-COVID, we have to look for opportunities of extending the protected area network. Everywhere we need to see that we have enough space for the wildlife. And we are proud that our 46 types of forest soil types we have in our country. Out of the 64 global forest soil types that we have, 46 is in India. So all these forest types have to be revisited, and they have to be invigorated by whatever way possible. So as I told, grain drain is again a very serious issue, where you must have read that we have all after fine grains, and we have left out the coarse grain, millets, etc. There is need for us to revisit, and through this action of grain, already government is doing it, because government has got every drop of water is being protected and conserved for the sake of better crop. So under this, we have to see. The other thing that we need to do is look at the CPRs. This has again been discussed for a long time. The common property resources like the ponds, pools, geels, tank foreshores, all these hold some biodiversity or the other, the grazing fields, etc. And then we'll have to see, even including the burial ground, all of them hold biodiversity. It has to be protected. The government on its own initiative, the in situ and ex situ conservation through botanical gardens, zoological parks are doing their best. And this is an area where a lot of awareness is required. We have to really bring this into the schools. Ecotourism, another potential to see that biodiversity is protected. And for the local people, the ABS under the Biodiversity Act, access and benefit sharing becomes very important. Every citizen has to understand the Biodiversity Act and the principles of ABS. So then we also talk of urban cities also need to understand biodiversity, because today, when under smart cities and other programs, when cities are expanding, small capsules are coming up, we have to see that the biodiversity that they hold are protected. And biodiversity itself needs better valuation, because we only know about the direct use of biodiversity, but the indirect value of the goods and services, the tourism, the ecotourism value, etc., are not really understood. In short, we should understand that biodiversity is nothing but the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the food that we eat are all dependent on biodiversity. Biodiversity is very important for nature's resilience and the health of the ecosystems. There are also other things that we can do, like species recovery programs, restoring degraded habitats, restoring connectivity through corridors, and then protecting the ecological integrity so that the functional integrity of ecosystems improve. And there are n number of threats to the forest. I can list out more than 100 threats to the forest: mining, road, invasives, pesticides, or fertilizers, and then population pressure. All these things are there. How do we really contain these pressures becomes another challenge post-COVID, because there could be definitely a lot of pressures. Biodiversity research along with agriculture research has to be very important, particularly in areas of agrobiodiversity. We'll also see that the people, particularly the farmers who are protecting biodiversity, have to be compensated adequately. This is started happening in the forest, but in the agriculture scenario, where a farmer has come forward to protect biodiversity, he has to be adequately compensated. And this is something important. And every agriculture field, in my opinion, has to have a small patch of biodiversity patch within this agriculture area. Even if it's a small area, we cannot afford to take the entire area of, even if he has a 1 hectare area or less than that, some little segment of the area has to be under some biodiversity. So limiting the unsustainable uses of biodiversity in the agriculture areas, etc., are some of the actions that have to be taken. So I think collectively, all of us today stand responsible. And the challenges that are going to come, because with the unemployment, with 50% of our mass being youth, we have to probably ensure that they understand biodiversity better, they understand agriculture better. Thanks today, many of the engineers have coming from the engineering field are taking up agriculture. So there is a lot of reverse thought process going on for promoting agriculture. But agriculture, when in synchrony, in harmony with biodiversity, can do a lot for this country and ensure the social security and ecological security of the country, on which is dependent all other security. And what we really require is a sustainable agriculture and an eco-agriculture that alone can take this country forward for the years to come. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir. Very informative. And I think in 20 to 25 minutes, you have covered all the aspects related to what you talked about SDG, which is the goal of UN. You also talked about land, water, ocean, forest. Even you talked about how modern the civilization has badly affected this biodiversity. How the fertilizers are affecting the human as well as this whole environment. And apart from the human, you also talked about the reptiles, the birds, and the creatures, which are the very much part of this environment. So I, on behalf of both organizations, I thank you, sir, very much. And I request that we have the session of Hari Bhai Mori. So I request you to be with us, that we have some questions. So after completion of this Hari Bhai Mori session, we have some questions, and I'm sure you will satisfy the participants who have raised the questions. So I again thank you very much, sir. So
thank you.
With this, friends, as I have heard that India ranks first in number of organic farmers, but here we are going to discuss something about natural farming, and this natural farming is something different than organic farming. So something what I have heard, that natural farming is the system where law of nature are applied to agriculture practices. And for this, we have a very suitable person. We have a very very eligible resource person, very good speaker, Sri Hari Bhai Mori ji, who is the president, CSR Bajaj Foundation. He has also held leadership roles in Ambuja Cement and AKRSP India, and has worked in 8 states of India. He initiated, expanded many innovative projects like joint forest management, interlinking of rivers and tidal regulators, converting mines out lands into reservoirs, roof rainwater harvesting structures, revival, rejuvenation of rivers, streams, recharging of wells and borewells through rainwater, borewans, seasonal low-cost rainwater harvesting structure, shifted of cropping pattern from traditional to sustainable and need-based income generation interventions for the rural landless community. And for this, since he practiced and he has been invited in Israel, he has the experience of the agriculture of Israel. So, and what I have heard, that some of the systems of Hari Bhai Mori has been adopted in Mauritius also. So I guess we have a very good resource person who will, and with his experience, we will also get benefit. So I request Hari Bhai Mori to take over from here. Mori sir.
Thank you, Ajit ji, for your kind introduction. And thank you, Dr. Krishna Kumar, for your enriched experience and sharing with all of us. I would like to actually share our practical experience, which have been, we are already carry out in 3 of our program area. One is Wardha in Maharashtra, Sikar in Rajasthan, and Lalitpur in Uttar Pradesh. So I will share our experience through slides, PowerPoint presentation. My topic is innovative and natural ways of agriculture without destroying environment. So it is, a screen is visible?
Yes, it's okay.
Yes, it's visible, sir.
Yeah. So our approach is basically we mobilize local community by formation of various need-based community institutions like self-help groups and village development committees and farmers producer companies. And agriculture without water is not possible. So we have also adopted need-based approach called integrated water resources development as per local needs and requirements. Traditional cropping pattern is also one of the major issue our farming community has been facing. So we are also shifting cropping pattern, traditional cropping pattern, and demand-driven, market-oriented cropping pattern, sustainable cropping pattern. Natural farming, we are also promoting basically indigenous cow and locally available biomass-based natural farming. We are promoting. Then farmers are individually very poor, so collectively they are very strong. So we are providing a sort of farmers producer organization, a platform wherein farmers can sell their own products in the market wherever it's possible, and they are also started various agro-processing units through these farmers producer organizations, and other allied need-based interventions we are also implementing as per the need of the local areas. So first I will go on community mobilization and institution building. We form, because women are also equal part in agriculture sector, almost 72% of agricultural operations are being carried out women folk. So we are also focusing more on formation of women's self-help groups to empower them and to make them in all the decision-making process. So we have almost covered 56,000 members under these women's empowerment initiative, under which number of income generation activities have been started by these women members. They are also involved in the formation of the farmers producer companies, and in the real sense they are being empowered. We also form village development committee because it's also a very good institution under which various decisions are making, because they are involved in all the planning process. The villagers are involved in implementation, and they are also involved in management of the projects once we hand it over to the local community. We also provide regular training to these groups through various interactions, through self-help groups, farmer producer companies, village development committee, and we regularly organize training program, awareness camps, and capacity building and exposure visit to make them aware, because farmer to farmer experience sharing is much better for the extension of the programs. Now I focus on integrated water resources development, under which initially we went in our village with the ideas of our engineering brains, like let us construct check dams to conserve water. The villagers outrightly rejected this idea in the Varda program here in Maharashtra, and they said that we don't want your check dams. Our small streams and rivers have been silted upon, so we need to do river rejuvenation, deepening and widening and desiltation of these rivers, so that we can form them in their original forms. So looking to their suggestion, we started a small beginning in 2009. Today we have almost covered 668 kilometers and 247 small streams and rivers have all been partially revived. As a result, about 150,000 acres of land which was rain-fed has been brought under irrigation. Previously, they used to cultivate single crop in monsoon seasons. Now they are able to cultivate 3 crops in a year. So this unique river rejuvenation project has been proved extremely useful to the farming community. Now it is also being replicated in other parts of the Maharashtra state as well as in other states also. So many other development organizations, CSR foundations, they regularly pay visit to us, to our program areas, to learn from our farmers. As a result of this, yield has also drastically increased in cotton from 6 quintal to 14 quintal, and average income is also increased up to 30,000 per acre. So almost 23,000 farmers have been directly benefited under these very unique and innovative river rejuvenation projects. After completion of river rejuvenation, we also build check dams wherever sites are feasible, and it is basically a gated structure so that siltation is again not take place in the river bed. So check dams, because of check dams, the water table is also increased, and directly area or rain-fed area agriculture is also covered under irrigation. So almost 11,000 acres has been benefited under these interventions. Then we also create percolation tanks, ponds as per the need and suitability of the sites. We also create farm ponds, and farm ponds are very useful. We are now farmers are converting farm ponds into wells, so they are also converting the rainfed farming under irrigation. This is very unique and innovative water harvesting structure called Bori Band. You can see the cement bag, empty cement bag filled up with the locally available soil or sand and stacked across the river beds. So this is basically seasonal structure, very low cost structures. The cost is around 5,000 to 6,000 per structure. And farmers themselves are coming forward to install these bags so that labor cost is not there. And we almost have established about 2,300 such structures. And as a result, when the erratic rainfall is there, or say there is a dry spell, the farmers are able for support irrigation to their crops. So almost 30,000 acres of land is directly covered under these Boriban very seasonal structures. This is also very unique and very innovative model of rainwater harvesting structure. It's called rainwater well recharging through rainwater, because we have millions and millions of wells, and our farmers normally withdraw water, but recharging is not taking place. So millions and millions of borewells are just wells and borewells are dried up. So rainwater is diverted from the farm to these wells through sort of recharge mechanism, under which some pipes are installed, so that entire rainwater which falls on the farms is diverted into wells. So this way, the water table increased drastically. Even in our Uttar Pradesh area, in one season we have observed that 380 feet borewells were dried, and in one season 360 feet water table has increased. You can imagine. So average 8 to 10 feet is increased in across the. So this is also again very, very cost effective, very low cost structure. Hardly 4 to 5,000 cost is involvement is there. So and result is as good as one check dam. So now this is also increasingly becoming popular among the farming community. Then farmers have does not have resources to lift. Water is available in rivers and streams, but water lifting devices are not there. So we are promoting group wells, group lift irrigation schemes, small group lift irrigation schemes, so under which almost 300 villages are covered, and about 9,000 farmers are covered, and about 22,000 acres of land which was rainfed is covered under irrigation. The yield is also increased in cotton crop, and Rabi crop they are now also getting cultivation and in Rabi season. This is also very unique water harvesting structure we are implementing in our Rajasthan area, where they usually construct bore wells. Open wells are not there now because of the almost 300 to 400 feet bore wells are there. So this is also picking up very well now. It is also becoming very popular among the farming community, and we are implementing on very big scale. Even we are also planning to replicate this project with the government of Rajasthan. We also promote for efficient use of available water. We also promote micro irrigation system like drip irrigation and sprinkler irrigation. And we are also trying to emphasize more on shifting of cropping pattern from traditional to demand-driven crops, like in the Vardai part of Vidarbha region, where it is predominantly cotton crop is there, BT cotton is. Now BT cotton is basically irrigated crop, but in farmers and Vidarbha area, they cultivate under rain-fed situation. So average yield in cotton under rain-fed situation is just 5 to 6 quintal per acre. While in case wherever irrigation facility is there, average yield per acre in BT cotton is 15 to 20 to 25 quintal per acre. So now we are shifting cropping pattern from traditional to demand-driven. We are promoting horticulture. We are promoting Wadi project. Is basically NABARD is also our collaboration with NABARD. We are promoting this. And under horticulture, they are also practicing intercrops. So almost 15,000 farmers we have created good models. And in our Wadi project, the farmers, many of thousands of farmers have crossed their income per acre lakhs rupees net profit. Average is 45,000. Previously, their income in traditional crop was just 15,000 per acre. Now they have reached to 60,000. So 45,000 per acre is increased. Now we are also promoting horticulture and forestry plantation, floriculture. Then we are promoting a natural farming, not organic. Natural farming is basically indigenous cow-based and locally available biomass-based natural farming, because there is no external input cost as such. So it is almost a very low cost or say zero cost natural farming. So almost we have covered 15,000 farmers under natural farming who are completely adopted. Partially adopted, we are not counting now. And to share their enriched experience, we also started concept of Kishan Pathshala, Farmers Field School, wherein if farmers are sharing their experience with the fellow farmers, farmers will be easily motivated and start on their own. In case if we invite and promote through experts, farmers will not convince easily. But in case of Kishan Pathshala, thousands of farmers were promoting and motivating them to adopt natural farming. Even government of Rajasthan's agriculture department, they are regularly sending their agricultural officers to learn from our farmers in our Sikar Rajasthan program area. So this is also very popular program now, and it is increasingly becoming popular among the farmer community. We are also promoting climate proofing projects in collaboration with NABARD, when we have set up local weather stations, and we also regularly provide them weather advisory, market advisory to our farmers through their mobile phone sets. We have also started this because farmers are also not completely reliant on their farms. So they also, for the daily needs, they go to the market to purchase their daily requirements for the families. So what we started basically is whatever the requirement of pulses or oil seeds or vegetables or fruits, it should be available from the farmer's farm itself. So almost 53,000 farmers have adopted this. Voice is there. Almost 53,000 farmers have adopted these self-reliant farming. If farmers are self-reliant, then village will be self-reliant. And if village is self-reliant, our nation will be self-reliant, because our natural resources and our human resources are underutilized or unutilized or being utilized inefficiently. So to make them efficiently utilized, if we utilize them efficiently, I think we have capacity to feed entire planet. That much capacity is there with our natural resources and our human resources. So to make them self-reliant, we have started this unique co-op project in at least 1 acre of their land. Their family's entire requirement of food grains and vegetables and oil seeds and pulses, whatever requirement there, it will be fulfilled from their farm itself. So if a farming family is self-reliant, village is self-reliant, nation will become self-reliant. Then individually farmers are very weak. They are not able to sell their product even in neighboring village, but collectively they are very strong. So we are promoting agribusiness through promotion of farmers producer organizations in collaboration with NABARD. And we have formed almost 18 farmers producer companies, under which they have started their own processing units, they have started their own grading units, packaging plants, pulses and cereals, etc. And now they have their major focus is on to increase number of member shareholders under these platforms, because farmers producer organizations has been proved extremely useful among the farmers community to sell their product in the market, not only nearby market, but in the metros, and even in some of our FPOs in Maharashtra is so popular, like and one in Pune and one in Nasik, they have crossed almost 400 crore turnover per annum. So these capacity is there if collectively they come together to sell their products in the market and to collectively purchase whatever inputs are required in agriculture. You can see some of the photographs wherein the small producer agro resource centers farmers have started through FPOs. vegetable selling. One, they have started on their own. Collectively, they are purchasing tractors units. They started small oil mills and they are selling in the local markets. And they are also sharing their rich experience with fellow neighboring farmers so that they can also start similar kind of platform of farmers producer companies. We also started other need-based intervention like biogas we are promoting because those who have their own cattle, they can easily build biogas and their fuel requirements could be easily fulfilled. So that way we are also promoting biogas programs, solar energy programs. Under the income generation activities and local cow promotion, we have also addressed landless families under which almost 8,000 farmers have, landless families have been covered. About 8,000 also covered under promotion of indigenous cows, so that they can also earn, and sort of a support system for the landless families is created through these platforms of women self-help groups and farmer producer companies. So as a result of these interventions, we are creating social, financial, and environment impact. Individually, they are very weak. Collectively, they are very strong. So we are sort of creating a sort of empowerment among the farming community through various collaborations with the various governments as well as other development players. Financially, they are become very strong with these integrated approach, and that they have become so empowered that now collectively they are selling their products, and their yield is increased, their economic status is also improved. Environmentally, like previously, whatever water logging problem was there in rivers, it has been overcome. Seasonal water flow was there in the rivers. Now the river flow has increased from 8 months to 10 months from seasonal. Then cropping intensity is also increased because previously, because of the lots of siltation and waterlogging issues, the farmers were just able to cultivate single crops. Now they are cultivating 3 crops in a year. And as a result of these, we have reached to almost 1,200 villages in 3 states, and about more than 3 lakh 12,000 families have been directly benefited under these interventions. Almost 15 lakhs population has been covered under these, and we are sharing this experience with many development players, with the government agencies. Government is also partner with us, like one unique project in Varda, wherein 600 kilometers is under progress, where 100 crore project is there, under which government of Maharashtra is supporting us 55% of the total project cost of 100 crores. 35 is contributed by our Bajaj Foundation, and 5% is also contributed by Tata Trust, and 5% is local community. So in all our agriculture intervention, our water intervention, we involve local community in the planning, we involve local community in the implementation, and we involve them in the management of the projects once projects are handed over to them. So this way we have created sort of model agriculture and sustainable agriculture practices in collaboration with the local farming community as well as with other development players. Thank you.
Thank you, Haribhai. Very nice presentation. I guess you have finished, Haribhai?
Yeah, I have finished it.
Okay. So thank you very much. And I guess this is a very unique case study, which indicates that how an organization can affect the socio-economic and even environmental condition of this. Like you have in your examples, you have just showed this, how you can recharge wells, the rainwater harvesting system, you can also the economic changes in the individuals also. So, and mostly I have seen how women empowerment is there. Bajaj Foundation has how impacted the lifestyles of women. So with this, I again thank you, you also Bajaj Foundation for done this marvelous work. On behalf of Visyo Kendra and Gramium, I thank you, Mori Bhai, again. And we have some questions. In fact, we have a lot of questions, but we have selected two questions for each resource persons. The first question, I think it goes to Hari Bhai Muri, as it indicates it's related to agriculture. So the question is like, the question is that do you feel that there is any impact of COVID-19 on agriculture? If yes, so what would be the new normal for Indian agriculture post-pandemic? Got Hari Bhai?
Yeah. I think there is no any adverse impact on agriculture because it is our culture. It is our villages. Like they are like our mothers. Because the people who migrated, who shifted from villages to urban, they were reverse migrated to the rural area, and our villages have capacity to absorb them. They are accepted very well, and urban people, they were not able to sort of absorb these people. But our rural people, our farmers have never went for the sort of every day they are working. That's why we are getting milk and vegetables, everything. So there is no adverse impact on our agriculture systems. In fact, they are become much more stronger.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have one question, like, as we are celebrating, I think Krishna Kumar sir will answer this. As we are celebrating Biodiversity Year, what measures can we take to protect and promote biodiversity?
I think, thank you for the question, but in my talk itself, I've answered. There are a lot of things that the public and the government can do. Government on its share through various programs are trying to improve biodiversity. We know that today we hold more than 60% of the tiger population in the country. Recently, the tiger census was out, and the tiger being the apex species, all other species are taken care of. The government is also, both at the center as well as the state governments, most of the state governments are today poised towards biodiversity conservation. And one very good thing that is happening is people have become sensitized. So this is an excellent point. I find youth, it is not like during our days, but today's youth are really good. There are amateur butterfly groups, there are amateur bird groups, there are so many groups trying to identify dragonflies, trying to identify, bringing out their own list, WhatsApp communication, informal, formal communication through Twitter, and so many ways that people are conscious of the biodiversity, and the youngsters are proud of it, and every section of the society is proud of their biodiversity. They know that they cannot play around, and then the entire economy, the entire society will go to a knot if there is no biodiversity. So therefore, biodiversity conservation, all that we need to do is create awareness, enough awareness. The schools, they are doing an excellent job. The colleges are doing good job. Today's students are so very poised towards biodiversity. These are good things. Then we have excellent teachers who have taken up this. The teacher could be from any walk of life. He could be a sociology teacher, or he could be a teacher from law, or whatever it is. But somewhere in their heart, they have this love for biodiversity. Therefore, I find that today biodiversity is in safe hands of the public, and let us all collectively sensitize people around us, those who are little or not slightly ignorant, and see that collectively biodiversity of the country is improved. Thank you.
It means in a single line, together we can.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, and very nicely you have answered the question. We have again a question for, I think, Hari Bhai. So the question is, how can corporates and NGOs come together to enhance Indian agriculture practices, and especially natural farming?
Right. Actually, we have a lots of resource farmers who are best practitioners in natural farming. So what we have started in our program area in Rajasthan, Sikar, and in Wardha, Maharashtra, the farmers are themselves sharing their experience with the fellow farmers. It is called Kisan Pathshala, the farmers field school. So we need to create sort of a national network of such best practitioner farmers. When we engage some consultant, we provide them handsome sort of incentive consultancy. Similarly, we can also provide incentive consultancy to our farmers. So farmer to farmer agriculture extension is the best. So we need to create sort of a national network of such resourceful farmers. And we should sort of create a platform under which they can travel across the country to share their enriched experience. So this way, if we NGOs and corporates come together to create a sort of national network, I think that would be very, very useful, and it would be much more beneficial across the country for the agrarian farming community. So there is a need to create such platform, best farmers platform.
And for this session, last question, I think for Krishna Kumar sir, what are the solutions to the challenges of world environment amid pandemic?
Yeah. Can you kindly repeat, please?
What are the solutions to the challenges of world environment amid pandemic?
Yeah. The world environment amid pandemic, I think people have learned a lesson now that they cannot play around with biodiversity and wildlife. Today, we know that the zoonotic diseases, more than 100 diseases are transmitted from animals and human beings to animals. The so-called COVID-19 itself is very clear that there is not enough biodiversity. Earlier, when the forests had plenty of animals, they could take the load of all the microbes. Today, when species are depleting in the forest, they move out. So what is the best thing that people can do is see that there is no more conversion of forests for non-forestry purpose. There is no more so-called, mindless, casual attitude of changing the land use of forests for something else. That is to be borne in mind. Any forest conversion for any other non-forestry practice has to be thought in a much better way. Even I think our urbanization also, we have to be very, very careful. The world over, people have realized that pandemics are going to be recurrent issues if we are not careful with our biodiversity. There are enough warnings, there are enough studies, a lot of research has proved that if you play around and dabble too much, if you tinker too much, then we are going to suffer. We have to leave a better earth for our next generation. And this is something that everybody is talking. And therefore, the entire world is seized of the matter that the world is one today. Any problem, climate change is a threat that is looming large and really threatening all of us. And climate change is not something to be tackled by one country or a small village. It requires global intervention. So that is how the collective action is happening. And most of the countries have become signatories to environmental programs across the world. These are all good signs we see. And I hope there's going to be, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good positive changes for the environment post-COVID.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, both of you, for your simple and very informative presentation and all answers. If time permits, I request both of you to be with us. By the time, if any questions come, so we request you, both of you. So now we have our another session. So we have Mr. R.K. Prabharan, sir, who is the program coordinator of Gramium. I request him to take over from here for the next moderation. Prabharan, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ajit.
I wish you all be safe and good health. I suppose we are forcing.
Prabharan, sir, your voice is not clear.
Not for long hours of doing work, not to observe the field for lengthy hours, not to take the same menu for months. Everything should have changed. Everything should have changed. Is there any sustainability without change? Yes. Production. A sustainable responsibility. Hello?
Prabhakaran ji, I think your voice is not audible.
Now it is okay.
Sir, it is echoing. I think the voice is echoing.
Okay.
Sir, I think it is still echoing. It's still echoing. I think 2-3 connections are simultaneously running in the office. If you can mute all other connections and only keep your switched on, it will be okay.
Hello.
Sir, I think it is still breaking. Hello.
Hello. Is it okay?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, little better now. Sir, I think we can. I think we can just.
Yes. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Sir, I think. Yeah, sir, I think. Prabhakaran ji, I think it is breaking a lot. Your voice is breaking. I think if we can just introduce our speaker, our next speaker. I think once the connection joins back, you can just continue, Prabhakaran ji. I think by that time, I will just introduce our next speaker for the next session. He is Dr. S. Jayaraman. If we can, yeah, if we can put up his profile as well. Yeah. So we have with us Dr. S. Jairam. He's the Dean at the Agricultural College and Research Institute, Trichypalli. He's also the Director, Center for Soil and Crop Management Studies, Tamil Nadu Agricultural University. He has been trained on resource management from University of Western Sydney, on modeling in rice at International Rice Research Institute, Los Banos in Philippines, and on water and crop production management at the Galilee International Management Institute in Israel. He's also the author and co-author of 5 books and more than 100 research articles published in national and international journals. So we welcome you, Dr. Jayaraman. Also, I think Sir is from the Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, which is one of the most foremost and the topmost universities in agriculture. So I think we really have a very wonderful resource person with us. So the session is, so we open the session to you, sir. Kindly go ahead, sir.
Chief of the Mr. Kendra and also the coordinator Raja Raman and the former director Forest Research Institute and research person from Rajasthan and Gramya Maharayanan. I thank Dr. Maharayanan for giving me opportunity to speak on this topic.
Sir, your video is not visible.
Voice is also breaking. Rajat.
Yeah, the voice and the video is not, sir, not clear, sir. The video is not switched on.
Yes, sir. The presentation. Yes, sir. Good evening to all, and Chief Mr. Kendra, and also to other Sangat.
So sir, your video is not visible, sir.
Now visible?
No, it is not visible, sir, right now. Sir, Ajit ji, I think if there is some issue with Dr. Jairam, you can just make the technical, you can do the technical things, and I think we can have Dr. J. Divyam to kindly go ahead with the session. I think sir's connection is perfectly working right. So I think if we can have Dr. Jairaj, sir, if we can have you, first, if you can take the session, sir, and then later once Dr. Jairam can have a proper technical connection, he will join us, sir. So I think, sir, if you can unmute us, sir. I think your audio is unmute, sir. Yeah. So you can go ahead, sir.
Okay. So, shall I start, sir?
Yeah, sure. You can go ahead, sir. So
Okay,
sir, before just starting your session, I would just want to give a small profile, sir. I just want to give a small introduction to all our participants. If we can have the profile of Dr. J. Diraviam. Dr. J. Diraviam is a senior scientist head at ICAR Krishi Vigyan Kendra Karur. He has also been a consultant, area project officer, area unit coordinator at AME Foundation, Bangalore. He is a recipient of the Jawaharlal Nehru Memorial Fund for achieving first rank in MSc Agriculture in all subjects. He is the author of the guidelines for IPM of major crops of the Deccan Plateau, a basket of options. Thank you so much, sir. I think, sir, you may go ahead with the session, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, kindly enable me to share the screen, sir.
I think, sir, we have already enabled you. So you may.
Okay, sir. So indeed, it's a great pleasure meeting so many people in this August gathering. I thank Vishwa Yuva Kendra and Gramium, particularly Mr. Narayan, sir, for providing this opportunity. And Mr. Rajat Thomas, who has been regularly coordinating with this program. And to other panelists, Dr. Krishna Kumar and Moriji and Ajit Kumar, sir. So coming to this program, I would like to present a few things about. So I will come to the. Sir, is it visible, sir? Hello, sir?
So yeah, it is visible, sir.
Okay. Slideshow. So slideshow. Okay, sir. This is about developing more sustainable and productive agriculture systems, means and ways. This is the topic. And we all know, as our father of nation has told, the world has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed. So I'm just projecting some of the current status of our country. Some of the data may not be very recent, but still it is only to guide the speech. So you can see the country engages about half of the workforce and contributes to 17.5% of the GDP. India is again a top producer of wheat, rice, pulses, sugarcane, cotton, highest producer of milk, and second highest producer of fruits and vegetables. Despite high levels of production, 15% of the population continues to be undernourished. So this is a very sorry state. And when we see the productivity, comparing with the other nations, the Indian productivity is much lower compared to, particularly for the major crops, paddy, wheat, cereals, and pulses. And if you see the production in million tons, we can see, except for wheat and rice, the pulses and oilseeds is almost stagnant. We have not been able to make much breakthrough. And some of the reasons are the reduce the land holdings. The marginal land holdings is increasing. So fragmentation is one of the major issue. And reasons, what are the reasons for the problems? If you take the rainfall data from 1871 to 2017, so we see a lot of this vagary of monsoon. So either it is excess or it is drought, severe water stress, all these things we are seeing regularly. So these are the order of the day. And area under irrigation, 51% is there for food grains, and irrigation consumes 84% of the total available water in the country. And that too 65% is through tube wells and wells, open wells. So we are depleting the groundwater. And overuse of groundwater sources is intensive water consuming crops, particularly for rice. Overexploitation has been noticed in Haryana, Rajasthan, up to 40 to 75%, and in Punjab it is about 75 to 90%. And the major source of irrigation is flood irrigation. India uses 2 to 3 times much higher water compared to other nations, particularly for production of 1 ton of grain. So this is leading to declining in the water table as well as the quality of water. So coming to the soil, Indian soil consists of primary nutrients. So we have nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, secondary nutrients, as well as micronutrients. But increasing food production also led to imbalance of nutrients. So this is one thing that has to be noted. So as we increase our productivity, the depletion of soil health is also noted. So about 5.3 billion tons of soil gets annually eroded at a rate of about 16.4 tons per hectare. And use of fertilizers, we see urea is the most used. So the normal trend is about 4% of 4:2:1 is the NPK usage, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. But whereas in our country, it is 6.7:2.4:1. So that is to show that we are using urea much higher than what is required. And this is also noticed in some of the high productivity states like Punjab, Haryana, and UP. So pesticides also is a major issue. The pesticide usage is increasing and the import of pesticides is also increasing. This is mainly due to monocropping. We are growing only one or few crops, which is highly remunerative. And again, the low quality pesticides, lack of awareness about pesticide usage, again, without proper guidelines, these are also leading to residues in food products. And weather impacts in agriculture. This is what is now more and more visible. So the availability of water is particularly during sowing time. So we at the Krishi Vigyan Kendra, I have been here for the past 10 years. Almost this Kharif season is almost failed. Except for 1 or 2 years, almost the rain required for the particular sowing time, it is not available. Again, the temperatures are increasing. These also affects the crop growth and things like that. And also the temperature and the relative humidity is triggering the incidence of disease. One major disease called blast in paddy is almost threatening the paddy cultivation in our area. So also the other influences are also very, very significant, particularly frost and all those things in other parts of the country. And this is the climate change effects on crops. We are going to see an increase in price of the major food commodities. So this is going to happen by 2030. So this is also an area of concern. But how do we go about it? Way to mitigate this, and what are the means for developing more sustainable and productive agriculture systems? So sustainable agriculture is a major way that will help us to do it. So it is to take maximum advantage of existing soil nutrient and water cycles, energy flows, and soil organisms for food production. It also aims to produce food that is nutritious without being contaminated with the products. So to cite an example, nowadays we see there is a deficiency of zinc in our soils. So they say the produce which is coming out for consumption has a deficiency of zinc. In turn, it also affects our neural functions. So these are also major concerns for health. So the components are crop rotations, crop residues, animal manures, legumes, green manures, off-farm organic waste, appropriate mechanical cultivation, mineral-bearing rocks like rock phosphate. All these things have to be used. Even, in fact, biochar. Biochar is a very good method to improve the soil fertility and productivity. And also waste decomposer. We all know that a waste decomposer developed by NCOF is very effective in promoting this concept. natural, biological, and cultural controls have to be taken up for managing pests. So when we see the basic elements, it is the input optimization. So when we want to increase our productivity, when we go for higher use of fertilizers, water, things like the chemical pesticide, it is not sustainable because they are all depend on fossil fuel, and groundwater is also a depleting resource. So to increase it, we have to go for on-farm resources, internally derived inputs, use family labor, intensive grazing systems, recycle the nutrients, legume crops, crop rotations, solar energy. This is very, very useful technology. Improved management of pests, and also soils have to be properly managed for managing the system. Diversification. This is very, very important. People go for few crops. For example, if you take tomato, everybody will go for tomato. The price falls, and farmers are unable to get even the harvesting cost. So we have to go for diverse cropping and livestock systems. Diversification lead to more stable farm income by lowering economic risk. So this also will help the farmer to buffer during whenever there is a decline in a particular commodity price. Conservation of natural capital. So earlier speaker, Dr. Krishnakumar, also stressed on the natural capital. Loss of natural resources eventually affects yield, farm productivity, sustainability. In sustainable agriculture, economic value is created by maintaining the productivity of land. So this we have to do it. Now the government has given this soil health mission boost from 2015 onwards. All our KVKs we are equipped with a micronutrient lab analysis. Mini soil lab facilities has been created, and we are doing all the soil sample tests, and the state government is also doing this. So this is also very, very important. And also value addition. Value addition has to be done. See, because farm produce have a very short life, people don't get the price. So value addition has to be done. Community participation. So when we all talk about the COVID and this post-COVID, now the rural-urban connection is strengthened because many people want to come back to the rural areas, as told by the Moriji sir. So people want to come back, and this will again strengthen the farming. So because the urban farmer is more concerned about what he takes, he wants to know the source of his food, what is the input used. So the rural farmer wants a better price. So there is going to be a good harmony in the coming times. So how do we go and how do we establish this? So there is a set of principles that have to be taken. Conserve and create a healthy soil. So stop soil erosion by terracing, strip cropping, so repairing gullies. So at panchayat level, it has to be done. Thanks to Jal Shakti Abhiyan by the government. Last year, we had several programs to create awareness among farmers. So organic matter addition, green manuring, cover crops, all these things, conservation tillage, zero tillage, all these things have to be taken into planting windbreaks. Then whatever this burning of crops should be avoided. So these are the conservation technology, mulching technology to arrest weed growth, and crop windbreaks. So these kind of things have to be planned. So this has to happen at farm levels. So conserve water, stop soil erosion in the field and pasture. So reduce use of chemicals, because most of the chemicals have an impact on the soil health as well as on the ecosystem. Establish conservation buffer. So we have to preserve this. Shelter belts, grow crops adapted to rainfall received. So we should not choose crops that consume more water. We have to use efficient irrigation systems. So we have to improve the water use efficiency by different techniques. They have several techniques like precision irrigation. Israel is a pioneer country for this technology, and our country is also taking up several programs through the micro irrigation programs of the department. So alternative wetting and drying in the case of paddy. We have the system of rice intensification, a very good system that could save even up to 30% of the water. And we have to choose crops that consume much lesser water as compared to crops like rice, sugarcane, banana, things like that. So there is a wide range of crops. And in situ water conservation, this has to be given a lot of impetus. Thanks to several watershed programs taken by several NGOs, really this has helped in conservation of water. Several methods are there. Then so many techniques are there for water conservation. And exit to water conservation, Moriji sir covered a lot of activities taken up through the programs. So lined ponds and use of micro irrigation, rain guns, all these things. In one of our farmers' field, he took up cultivation of groundnut through rain gun. For the entire crop season, there was not even a single drop of water, and he could get a very good harvest using rain gun. So these kind of systems should be introduced, and a lot of irrigation methods. So we have to use the best method to conserve the water, because we have to aim at more crop per drop. So these kind of systems we have to take up. So the more the conservation, we can get more efficiency. Drip irrigation gives the maximum efficiency, whereas flood irrigation gives the minimum efficiency. So, and now scheduling of irrigation by sensors. So with the digital revolution, we can go for such systems wherein now mobiles can be linked through Android applications, and farmers will have a better control over the water management. So coming to irrigation in maize, we have alternate furrow irrigation, drip irrigation, sprinkler, and this border strip sprinkler systems, and surface, subsurface irrigation methods, micro irrigations. And coming to the soil, we have to properly test and use the organic menus, compost, whatever litters, leaf litters, particularly in forest areas, surrounding areas, they have to use the leaf litters. And weed composting is one interesting thing. During the monsoon, we see a lot of weeds all over our area, near to the roads and all. So all these weeds can be easily composted with cow dung slurry as well as waste decomposer, and store the litter piles out of the rain, so that the nutrient value is maintained. Then also we have to pasture the poultry. So this also adds up to the nutritive value of the soil. So also use of chemicals, we have to be very, very cautious. We should not use the red labeled chemicals. We have to go for green label, and only when it is absolutely necessary, and use the least toxic. We also should recycle properly the containers and dispose as per the label instructions. Managing the pests through cultural approaches. This is the best system. Cultural approaches are very, very ecologically sound, like crop rotation, and also this intercropping. I had an opportunity to work in Dharmapuri when I served in the AMA Foundation, an NGO organization. So we found this coconut was highly affected by black-headed caterpillar. It's a very, very serious pest. But just after half a kilometer, we saw a field where they had an intercropping of this areca nut with coconut. That is an area called Palakod. There was absolutely no incidence. So this was a very clear indication that just intercropping, you make an ecosystem that is similar to a forest, you can avoid severe pests. So this also we could see in the case of fall armyworm. We were the first to report the fall armyworm in Tamil Nadu, and we found in our villages, wherever the farmers have not used herbicides, so there the natural control through parasitoids, predators were highly prevalent, and the incidence was very less. So we have brought success stories out of that. So also cover crops. So moisture conservation, we have to always think of. Weeding is a very, very expensive thing, and weed also serve as a source for disease, particularly viral diseases, fungal pathogens. So we have to be very, very cautious. We have to use all these things in a systematic manner. Biological control of pests. We have, I am an entomologist. I worked for biodiversity ecosystem in paddy, and we found not even a single chemical was used in one village near this Chennai. In that particular village, of a farmer field school program conducted by Department of Agriculture, the farmers have stopped insecticide usage, and the entire village they went for IPM. So these things are possible. Then mulching, whatever available material you can use for mulching, and this kind of dried leaves, compost, whatever available material. And introducing existing populations. See, natural enemies, for example, papaya mealybug, we all know it was a severe threat, particularly in our area. This cassava was severely affected. Thanks to the initiative by ICAR, the NBAA Institute brought out the Acirophagus papayi. It's a parasitoid brought out from Central America. So this was introduced and we could able to control the pest. So farmers asked for this parasiticide. They didn't go for chemicals. So similarly, this traps, we have several light traps, and we have in fact innovated a light trap into a chargeable trap from a solar system. So this is also making farmers, it is very easy to monitor and manage the pest. Also, we have several selective botanical insecticides like the neem-based chili garlic. We know a lot of botanicals are very effective. Trap crops, the use of marigold for this Helicoverpa armigera, that is the tomato fruit borer, and also this Spodoptera is very well controlled, managed by the use of castor as a border crop, and crop rotation, intercropping. Then maintaining a very, very healthy soil is very, very prerequisite for managing the problems. So these are some of the wonderful predators that are available in paddy ecosystem. They are called wolf spiders, very effective in managing the pest. When farmers use carbofuran like pesticides, so it kills all these natural predators. So similarly, coccinelles, these are wonderful ladybirds. So very effective in managing the pests. So also selection of crops is very, very important. Grow crops and crop varieties well suited to the local climate. So this is very important, and we have to match the crops to the soil. So here I would like to stress that there is a need for developing a soil health index for every farm. So this should be developed using the modern computation method, so that a soil health index will become a ready reckoner for the farmer to know the status of his soil. Then more of an application oriented Android system should be developed, so that the farmer can choose based on the soil health index what crop to be chosen based on the season and the soil type. Then we have to go for open pollinator varieties, because these are very sound. When we go for these high yielding hybrids, farmers are denied of quality seeds at times. So we have to go provide impetus to livestock that are locally hardy breeds, and also this livestock that are familiar with grazing. So we have this Maycherry breed is a very good breed that is surviving in this particular part of our district, very, very dry area, particularly in Paramati and the Congayam plains. And biodiversity, as Sir told Dr. Krishna Kumar, this biodiversity is very, very important. The biodiversity is the key for the entire the lifeline of the world. So we have to develop some field margins. We found in my study that the field margins where we have some plants, they serve as the place for the parasitoids to and predators to remain during the off season, which migrate during the crop season. So also we have to keep the ponds and streams very clean, and also the wildlife corridors are very, very important. So this is the ecological engineering. The National Institute of Plant Health Management located at Hyderabad has giving a lot of impetus to this ecological engineering for integrated pest management, wherein all the components are utilized. It is engineered, that is to design a particular system that is very efficient to manage the insect pests. So conserve energy resources. So this is very, very important. Now the tillage operations in our own district, one farmer who is a disciple of the great Nammalwar. Many people know the organic scientist, Dr. Nammalwar. He has his farm in Vanagam in Karur district, Kadavur block. So Mrs. Saroja, she took up his practices, this mulching systems, permaculture methods, and she has won the Mahila Kisan nomination for doing several works. So we visited the field, we found very good productivity, no chemical, no pesticide, no fertilizers, no weedicides, excellent. Anybody can visit, such a nice models are available. So this can reduce the chemicals. Also production methods using reduced horsepower needs, then reduce the use of oil, solar fencing, and so many other renewable resources have to be used. Diversify crops and livestock. This is very important. The integrated farming system approach. TNA has brought up several models. We have to substitute management with the off-farm inputs. maximize the use of on-farm resources. We should work with nature, not against. Keep machinery, equipment, everything in good condition. And also we have to add value to the crops. We have to involve farmer producer organizations. So thanks to NABARD, we developed one program, pilot project for master farmers. A success was the development of a Nachalur farmer producer company. Mr. Karigalan, who steered a software turned farmer, he steered the company, and that company became a national model. So these things are available in the YouTube published by NABARD. So agroforestry, this is very interesting thing because of large area under drought. So our district has only 2% tree cover. So this is going to be the best way to change the ecosystem. So NGOs have to take up a lead in developing these agroforestry models in all their working villages. So these are the successful models that has been developed by the Forest College. Dr. Parthiban, who is doing excellent work. So he has developed several models. So agroforestry systems are available that are very, very sound. And we have to go for a diversified agriculture, use all the components. So these will develop in productivity, profitability, provide balanced food, resource recycling. So good employment. Now this is very required. This is very much important because now people after the COVID, people coming to the villages would need a lot of employment opportunities. So all the bio inputs they can produce. MSSRF has done pioneering work in Kannivadi villages of Dindikal. So women groups are doing production. Farmers are producing parasitoids. So everything is possible. So a lot of employment opportunities are there in the rural system if we go for the kind of an integrated farming system. So this is a component developed system developed by TNAU. A lot of good returns are there. Also the climate change context. So we have to go, look into this. So we have to develop climate ready crops. Crop diversification is needed. Changing land use management, adjusting cropping season. So all our whatever knowledge we have generated over the years have become redundant after this climate change. Efficient use of water resources through watershed approach, improving pest management and developing insurance and forecast systems. Adaptation, use of drought submergence and heat tolerant cultivars. TNA has brought out this CR 1009 sub 1 variety that can withstand drought, submergence conditions. Drought tolerant varieties developed by ICAR, ICRISAT, so many from the state agriculture universities. Cropping systems that fit into the changed climate. Shift in planting dates. So very, very important. We can go for even staggered planting so that we can escape drought and heat. At least some part we can do. We have in AME Foundation, we have promoted the strip crop system. So it was a very, very efficient system. Efficient water management and water harvesting systems. Examples of mitigation is the nitrogen management, particularly to this nitrous oxide, we have to reduce all the methods. Conservation agriculture to reduce carbon dioxide, particularly this carbon sequestration. The SRI system is very effective. We have developed this method through our Climarise program. SRI has been taken up in a large way. So agroforestry will also help in carbon sequestration. Also coming to the other aspects, procurement of inputs, this has to be taken up in a timely manner. Cropping systems, selection of crop variety, timely sowing, irrigation scheduling, fertilizer application has to be timely made, system has to be developed, time of plant protection, it has to be done advance, harvesting, marketing should be done properly, and the contingent crop planning is very, very important. And this is a kind of a climate smart village. We have a Pakka system. The village weather stations are there. Now automatic weather stations. Thanks to ICR and IMD initiative, we have now got district agrometric units, DAMU centers, automatic weather stations to give locally weather-based advisories, documentation of aberrant weather conditions, and giving awareness and real-time measures. Water conservation, I have already stressed a lot. Crop, drought tolerant varieties and flood and all these things are very important. Soil health management, then site-specific nutrient management, legumes, integrated nutrient management, fertigation techniques, carbon, all these things are very important. This institutional buildup, that is very, very important. The NGOs can play a great role in developing these systems. There are other systems that are also equally performing well. The conservation agriculture. Very, very interesting thing is the minimum soil disturbance, zero tillage, retention of crop residues. This will help in having a permanent organic cover and use of crop rotations. And this zero tillage has got a lot of advantages. And there are now tractor-based zero-till equipments. The Happy Seeder is available. Then conservation agriculture. This is also very, very important. And ecosystem-based agriculture. This farming systems approach, use of well-adapted. All these things the FAO has promoted. And this is the contribution of sustainable intensification farming system. So we can see mulch cover gives so many benefits. So it simulates the forest floor conditions. All these things are available. You can see at leisure. These are the organic farming. Now organic farming get a lot of impetus. If you go for inputs purchase, a lot of gel-based inputs are being sold. There are a lot of, spurious products in the name of organic farming. All these things have to be properly monitored, and we have to give best thing for the farmer, and conservation agriculture should be added with the organic farming. So coming to the way forward in the current scenario, I think.
Can you please conclude?
Yes, sir. The last. Yes, sir. Last thing. So this is what I have already stressed. The soil health index. This has to be developed, and expert systems for farmers. And we have to also have a data on the urban return farmers, those who have come back, and they have to be tuned to take up ecological agriculture. So several ways and means are available, and we have to develop more sustainable systems. Models are have to be created. So here NGOs have a major role, and in emphasis should be given in the ecological agriculture to sustain the production systems. So the rich must live more simply so that the poor may simply live. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I think it was a really fruitful session. And
thank you, sir.
I think we can also see the comments, the beautiful comments that the NGOs are, sharing, that such a detailed presentation. So it is really a pleasure for us. I think you have more than adequately, done justice to the topic on developing more sustainable and productive agricultural systems, during this time of COVID-19. So we thank you once again, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you once again. And I would want to share, I think almost close to 170 participants are still there with us on the Zoom. And I think they are getting a lot of information, so they do not want to run away in this time. And we have almost 1,000+ people who are actively there on YouTube and Facebook Live who are being part of this program. So I request now our final speaker of the day, Dr. Jairam. I would just give a small profile. I think if our team member can get the profile on the screen. The doctor, he's the former dean at the Agricultural College at Trichy. He's been the Director and Center for Soil and Crop Management Studies at the TNAU. He has been trained on the resource management from University of Western Sydney in modeling in rice and at the International Rice Institute at Los Banos, Philippines, and on water and crop management from the Galilee Institute in Israel. And he's also the author and co-author of 5 books and more than 100 research articles. So we welcome you, sir. And so I hope you can keep the time which was stipulated, sir. And after this, kindly, if we can have all the speakers there, because we have the question and answer, and then we will be having the vote of thanks. So Dr. Jairam, if we can take the session forward. Yeah, Dr. Jairam.
Unmute, sir. Unmute yourself.
Unmute, Mr. Anand, if you can unmute.
Anand ji.
Anandji, if you can unmute Mr. Narayanan.
Anandji.
Only he can unmute himself.
Acha, acha, acha. Ha,
Yeah,
now
no.
it's okay.
Yeah. Dr. Jairam, I think you may go ahead, sir.
Okay. Good evening to all. And good evening to Uday Shankar, Raja Thomas, Mori, Mr. Narayanan from Gramian, and Jairaj, Dravyam, and all participants. Good evening, all. Let me present a brief about the sustainable plant protection practices. So, in sustainable agriculture, in general, they speak in a holistic way. But what sustainable agriculture is that it should be equally strong, technically viable, and socially acceptable. That is the main thing. And all the sustainable agriculture concepts, there are different concepts, and different types of agriculture farming systems available throughout the world. All focus mainly the ecology and natural inputs, and except the conventional green agriculture focus only use of natural inputs as well as the industrial inputs. We have the arable farming. Hello?
Yes, sir. You may speak, sir. You are audible, sir. We have different classifications in the world: agricultural farming, there's arable farming, pastoral, mixed farming, commercial, subsistence, cash cropping, large scale farming, small, intensive, extensive, like that. There's one problem. Sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
In sustainable agriculture, we have different themes. One is sustainable management of natural resources, eco-friendly farming systems, sustainable plant protection practices related to crops, agriculture crops, horticulture crops, and another is sustainable animal production system. This is the animal side and the institutional developments to develop these sustainable agriculture practices in a strong way. Finally, the economic, social, and political context. So there are many types of sustainable agriculture, like organic agriculture, alternate agriculture, green agriculture, evergreen agriculture, agroecological intensification, greener agriculture, nutrient-sensitive agriculture, like smart, climate-smart agriculture, low-carbon agriculture. All things what focus use of natural inputs, on-farm inputs, climate. The climate change, with respect to change in climate, accordingly we have to grow crops. So we mainly thinking of the global warming. In such case, we should to select heat-tolerant crops. So there are many aspects. Earlier, we see the natural ecosystem earliest. Then we clear lands and other things, go for selective crops, and then for intensive farming, particularly near urban areas. Industrial revolution, agriculture revolution starts with industrial revolution from Europe and USA, they developed many machinery, farm machineries, chemicals, pesticides. They initially started this before 60s. Then Green Revolution. This is the term coined by William Gore in 1968. This, because of the Bengal famine in 1943-44 in our country, our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru declared that everything can wait but not agriculture. So their first 2 or 3 5-year plans, they focused on agriculture, and the Green Revolution is concentrated with the help of Norman Borlaug from Mexico, CIMMYT, and similarly ICR, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan. All focus on the Green Revolution, mainly with the high-yielding varieties, high fertilizer use, pesticide use, use of farm machinery, etc. And third Green Revolution is the gene revolution and biotechnology. Here, the improved varieties of crop plants, animals, and other things, the genes are taken and they are developed into different, multiplied in a large scale in the laboratory and supplied to the farmers through biotechnology, and they use the seeds, stem cells, leaf cells, etc. They also developed genetically modified crops, herbicide tolerant crops, pesticide tolerant crops. There are about 9 to 10 crops, such as soybean, corn, cotton, canola, alfalfa, sugar beet, papaya, squash, potato, rice, etc. Because of use of these fertilizers, particularly nitrate fertilizer, ammonical fertilizer, and phosphate fertilizer, they leach into soil, they goes to drainage water, and finally reaches the water storage ponds. They feed and develop the blue-green algae, shown in the figure. This is when more of the algae develops, the environment gets affected, water resources get affected. Because of this, even wild animals die. Such is the impact of the nitrate, ammonical, and pesticides, herbicides, residues in the soil that leach into water. Then M.S. Swaminathan, they went for a concept of ever-green revolution and ever-green agriculture. In that, they focused on the eco-technologies, developed the concept of bio-village. And in the bio-village, in the village, using the information technology and village knowledge centers, they concentrate on use of the on-farm resources, and even the animal dung used for the gobar gas, which is the main climate damaging gas, methane gas. But it is not damaging in using the burning the gobar gas. It is used for cooking gas in the rural area. Thus, it saves. The emission of green gas is used in useful purpose. In eco-agriculture, there are different concepts of organic agriculture. In the organic agriculture, there are different modifications, not just use of the farmyard manure or oil cake alone. There are some modifications, use of effective microorganisms, that is biofertilizers, biopesticides, and also the fungicides and bacteria which kills the weeds. And also another concept is the one straw revolution. That is from natural farming from Japan. They are not using any chemical fertilizers or pesticide herbicides. Another is white agriculture. They are mainly using the microorganisms, particularly fungi, are developing the soil fertility for further improvement. This currently what we use now is the green agriculture, which permits, this is the one technology, one area that permits both chemical inputs and also organic inputs, going for the integrated pest management, integrated nutrient management, integrated weed management, and natural resource systems. Another concept, Paulson, North Paulson and Paulson developed low carbon technology. This is not related to climate change. So what they predict that we want to reduce the carbon intensity, thereby we reduce the temperature 2 degrees by 2020. Another concept, in 2050, we go for halt in the substantial reduction of temperature. First point, reduction in carbon. Second is reduction in temperature. So this is based, what they suggest that we have to develop knowledge on the climate change and farming system. We have to promote farming system which less dependent on the off farms resources, that is from industries, that is fertilizer, pesticide, etc. This is biodynamic organic farming is one of the earlier concepts. With this, our university have developed many new additions. In addition to horn manure, we recommend farmyard manure, vermicompost, neem case, biofertilizers, and also microbes which kills the pests and diseases. So for this, Pseudomonas kills diseases, Trichoderma pests. There are several indices. So we earlier told that sustainable agriculture is ecologically, it should be sound, economically viable, and socially acceptable. So in this, each category, we have different criteria. For example, ecology, groundwater table, nutrient, irrigation, fertilizer, water use efficiency. In economic indicator is crop productivity, income, benefit cost ratio. In social, is food self-sufficiency, acceptable food, like that. Now, though we have many concepts, now we go for sustainable plant protection. Why we select this, go for this? We should not generally speak of animal husbandry, agroforestry, many other technology we should not go. If you want to select one technology, you should go in depth to apply maximum possible technologies, available technologies. There are many technologies for every crop that should be transferred to farmers so that he can exploit maximum output. The main thing is a timely operation, growth stage, input selection based on crops. For example, tobacco, we need ammonium sulfate, not potassium, ammonium chloride. Like that, we have to select for crops, we have to select inputs. Besides, we have to select crop species and varieties to biotic and abiotic stresses. Biotic means pest tolerant variety. Abiotic means salt tolerant, drought tolerant, flood tolerant, submergence tolerance, like that. Besides, we go for diversification of crops. Suppose one crop, there is low income. Low price means we can get income from other crops. Similarly, farm enterprise, crops, animals, fisheries, goat rearing, rabbit rearing, pig rearing, like that, the poultry industry, like that, many enterprises should mix. And we have to take care of the soil quality. And also, good quality of food. So that we say when it's going for selection of sites, species, and variety, we have to select each. Suppose we select a black soil or red soil or alluvial soil, select crop according to soil. Some crops comes under black soil, some crops come well under red soil, some crops comes under alluvial soil, well nice. In that, you see the pH, EC, and other things. Accordingly, you select crops and varieties. So there is a project is SESA. In that we have developed multi-stress rice varieties. I have given from Director of Rice Research, Hyderabad, from Central Soil Scientific Research Institute, Karnal, and Central Rice Research Institute from Cuttack. They have developed many varieties. And also the biotechnology using they developed Swarna Sub-1 like that. Many tolerant varieties they have developed for submergence tolerance. So the submergence tolerant varieties, just given a comparison, initial stage there is setback. After 3 months it's receive and grow well. Similarly, this is condition. This is original Swarna. This is Sub-1 Swarna. So after flood, the Sub-1 Swarna Sub-1 is able to develop well and gives maximum yield. This is a comparison of Swarna 1 and Swarna crop. Another thing is many of the three of the speakers, the elder speakers, touched the biodiversity. Biodiversity not only in crops, animals, but also in soils also there is varieties of biodiversity, insects, pests in soil, bacteria, fungi, inside the soil also. These also taken into account. While biodiversity, we think of these not only crop diversification and also farm enterprises, as earlier we discussed, all these things should be integrated. In soil biodiversity, we should do consider the microbes, bacteria, fungi, rhizobacteria, mycorrhiza, etc. So the biodiversity, the different biodiversity organisms that should be conserved, in situ conservation within the natural habitat. So wetlands, mangroves, groves, protected landscapes. This is natural parks. Again, is one method. Another is ex situ, outside the natural habitat. This is whole organisms, botanical gardens, arborea, zoological parks, and some in parts of biobanks, seed banks, pollen banks, tissue culture organizations, the biotechnology labs, in animal husbandry, sperm, egg, etc. In weed control, we have different techniques, cultural control, mechanical. In biological, we have allelopathy plants. Parthenia, for example, controls water hyacinth. Neochatina controls the Econia weeds. Sunflower inhibits the Setaria viridis. Similarly, bioherbies, there are bioherbies available. So all these should be used for the control of the weed management. This is the weed control equipments used to control weeds in rice. This is weeders in rice field. So weed management through trash mulching, particularly in sugarcane. So between 2 rows of sugarcane, we apply trash mulch and there we can control weeds. This is in turn also incorporated as menu. So twine weeds also available in sugarcane because of it's grown throughout the year, 12-month crop. So some of the Ipomia coccinea species spread over the sugarcane. This should be pulled out or use of some of urea spray, ammonium sulfate, some herbicides we can control. Some of micro herbicides available we can use. Some of the phytotoxins also used as herbicides. So caffeine from coffee plant, dhurine from sorghum plant, like etc. we can use as herbicides. Some of commercially available herbicides we are also available, but it should be reduced to the maximum possible. So herbicide application technology. So broadcasting, within rows spraying, with irrigation water, like that. There are different methods applied. There is a trees also, unwanted trees also we can kill with use of tree killer. This is TNU from Adurai, Tamil Nadu Rice Research Institute. They have developed a tree killer, unwanted trees from buildings, particularly buildings, temples, etc. used to kill using this tree killer. So these are different instruments used in weed management. These are different herbicide recommended for different crops. And another thing is soil management practices. So this is covered earlier. We use of cover compost, reduced tillage, conservation tillage, and also cover crops, etc. The use of surface cover and use of soil sealing is one of the techniques used for better conservation of organic matter in the soil. So this is soil management practices and rainfed conditions. So in field condition, we can go for terraces, stone walls, contour ridges, vegetarian barriers, using vetiver grass. On for field, we can go for check dams, water collecting dams, afforestation. This is different models in the soil management practices in irrigated conditions, terrace farming, crop diversity, cropping, drip irrigation, etc. So integrated plant nutrient management. A best combination of use of organic, inorganic, green manures, green leaf manures, biofertilizers, oil cakes, along with the fertilizers. So optimum range, balanced, we have to apply for best use of, best production of high yield. So this is one of the technique of green manuring in sugarcane. This is also in Suspenia rostata, is also in rice also, similarly we can intercrop. So when we add green manure before rice or in along with the sugarcane like that, the leaf color is green, dark green. It will be exist throughout the cropping period. So without application of this green manure, I think if you see the crop, the leaf will turn pale color. So the productivity increases when leaves is in green. So that's why we recommend the green manures in the sugarcane, rice, etc. So in soil health management, we have to use of balanced fertilizer. Because of green revolution, use of high fertilizers, use of nitrogenous fertilizers alone, there is go for imbalance. There is a deficiency of micronutrients, nitrogen deficiency. In such case, you have to go for balance. This is achieved through the soil test crop response studies. So we can also incorporate the crop residues, because in North India, particularly in Punjab, Haryana and other things, the rice crop followed by wheat, there is a gap of 15 days. In such case, they cannot remove. So they just go for burning also. And under things, we have to go for incorporation. So this is the crop residue management. This should not be burned. It should be incorporated for improving soil fertility.
Sir, I think if you can, sir, wind up, because I think we have a question answer and the vote of thanks, sir. So we have the time also, sir. Please, if you can just wind up. Fine. Thank you so much, sir. I think sir has given a glance. I think, sir, you have a lot of information. I think that that will be really useful for all our participants. But I think we have a constraint for time because I think that there's a lot of presentations, sir. But we still thank you so much, sir. I think within the time, I think you could cover. I think you could cover a lot of things on crop management and how it will be useful for the NGOs and the farmer producer organizations as well. So we thank all our 4 speakers, and now we just want to we have some very important questions, because if you still see there are more than 100+ participants who are connected with us still, and they have some really important questions. So I would request either Dr. Jairaj or Dr. Jairam to either any of you can answer the questions. It is related to agriculture itself. The first question is, what is the difference between sustainable agriculture and sustenance agriculture? Subsistence and sustainable agriculture. Any of you can give the answer. What is the difference between sustainable and subsistence
okay,
agriculture?
Yeah. Subsistence agriculture is what is normally followed in traditional areas where they do agriculture for their livelihood. So there it could not be even unsustainable. For example, this crop residue, this all the residue burning, all these things can happen. Whereas in sustainable agriculture, we have already seen, it is a set of complete system wherein we take due consideration of the conservation of natural resources and all those things. So subsistence is totally the starting point of an agriculture, whereas sustainable agriculture is almost the peak.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I think the participants who had given this question, I think they've got a suitable answer. Thank you so much, sir. The second question is that, what role can CSOs play in promoting natural agricultural practices in rural India? Any of you can answer, sir.
Okay, sir. Sir, my own experience in working with the NGOs, AME Foundation, as a resource organization, we were working with Eco Network partners, so many NGOs and the community-based organizations. Really, they are very strong in the community mobilization. And their identification with the community is helping them to reach out in a very fast manner. So the concepts which we are promoting, all the agriculture related technologies are going through the Krishi Vigyan Kendras, which are located almost 700 KVKs across the country. So any CSO people can visit the KVK, get the latest information on these concepts and promote them. So KVKs are bound to visit the entire district and give training and all, do demonstrations, advisory services, whatever need we can do from the CSOs. So CSOs can be a link between the institutes and the community, so that agriculture, particularly the sustainable production systems, are taken to the field, and particularly also to help in the development of entrepreneurship, because now COVID and the post-COVID unemployment, all these things are there. So a lot of skill trainings are provided through the Krishi Vigyan Kendras. So definitely CSOs can organize the community for capacity building. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Rajat,
yes,
can you just request Jairaman sir and also Krishna Kumar sir on the same question, quick comment?
Yes, sir. If you can also, if you can, sir.
So in Tamil Nadu, there is one scheme operated. There's a distribution of farm animals to in the different farmers throughout state. So we in the university we have started a pilot project. Similarly, in other states also they can recommend giving the sheep or goat or cows to farmers, so that one of the organic source of manures can promoted. Another thing, the use of biofertilizers, fungicides, the herbicides, these also promoted by setting of labs by government. These are sources for promotion organic for sustainable agriculture.
Sure. Krishna Kumar, sir, if you would also like to just share. So you're on mute, sir. If you can unmute yourself.
Rajat, I'm sorry, Mr. Rajat, I couldn't get the question, but
so what role can CSOs play in promoting natural agricultural practices in rural India?
I think I agree with the answers given by both the people, and that's what should be rightly done. And since they are in the field of agriculture, they know better on this. So I take that as the...
Sure. So thank you. So the one last question, I think this is coming from one of our youths, I think. How can I be part of, how can I be a part of agricultural trainings from the TNAU? So I think Dr. Jairam, this directly comes to you. How can the youth who are not part of the agricultural university, but still interested to be part of wanting to know information from or learn information, how can they learn from TNAU not being a part, sir?
Our university offering one BSc agriculture course in Tamil for the rural students. This is they can register, and they are giving books and things. Also, they are giving training in Coimbatore. Another thing, we are having a KVKs throughout state. Each district wants KVK, and also we have number of research stations in throughout. So in KVK they can get training, and also they can go for agriculture college. Almost there are more than 40 agriculture institutions spread throughout countries. They can locally contact research stations, agriculture colleges, KVKs, and they can also contact Coimbatore Communal Agriculture for direct correspondence.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I think these were the questions which were raised by our participants there. They're still eager to learn. They're still there with us, you know.
Any comment from Hari Bhai you can also ask, or Dr. Diwaram comment. You take.
Yes, sir. Please.
Sir, I would like to share one of the excellent program being offered by Ministry of Agriculture. There is an institute called Manage. It is a National Institute for Agriculture Extension Management. So they offer 45 days vocational training to youth who are either qualified in agriculture allied courses or biology subjects like botany, zoology, chemistry, then also biotechnology oriented courses. So for students beyond 18 years with 1 year experience, they are eligible for a course that is free. And after completion of this program, Agri Clinic and Agribusiness program, they are eligible to set up several activities related to agriculture. So for which the government gives a subsidy through banks, 36% for general and general category. Women and SC/ST, they get 44% subsidy, and 5 lakhs without collateral, they can get loans. So a lot of thrust is given, and this is agriclinics.net is the website. So anybody to go and see that. We are also a nodal training institute for that program, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Haribhai Moriji, if you have any comments or anything to share, sir.
I think I said that the resource farmers network, national network, should be formed to share their wider and enrich experience with the rest of the fellow farmers across the country. And similarly, now lots of skill trainings are being organized on various off-farm trades. But agro-based skill training is also essential, under which all these resource farmers, the best practitioner farmers, should be invited to train our youth so that they can also attract themselves towards agriculture and in the rural areas. So again, in skilled training, this is lacking. So we need to include agro-based skill training like horticulture and dairy farming and lots of small scale processing and grading unit establishment, so that huge number of youths who are attracted towards urban areas for employment, reverse migration take place in the rural area, because we have tremendous potential to develop employment on our agro-based systems. So I think we need to work on that also.
Thank you so much, sir. I think, sir, we will, as you had shared, sir, we will, wherever there is the lack of capacity, I think Vishwa Yuva Kendra, in collaboration with all you, sir, good well-wishers of Vishwa Yuva Kendra, we will try and, sir, reduce that gap, sir, and we will try and capacitate NGOs, CSOs, VOs, FPOs, youth, sir, so that we can get farming really to the maximum output, sir. So we will surely do that, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So I think all four speakers I think they have really take out valuable time, because time is the most important commodity, you know, and all of them are really renowned people in their respective fields. And for them to take out so much of time is really, really valuable. And I think the participants are also present. I think it has been a very fantastic two-way process. So this program, I think, would not have been possible without this program would not have been possible without our partner, you know, Gramium. You know, we give very much a lot of importance to our partners, you know, who are like, if we are a tree, if we are a roots, they're the branches who are spreading, you know. So both of them are very important. So with this, I would request the director of Gramium NGO, P. Narayanji, to kindly share his vote of thanks, sir. Narayanji, please.
Yes. Good evening to everybody. It is my great pleasure and honor to well you and all at the webinar on COVID-19. Beyond existing environmental challenges and eco-friendly agriculture. On behalf of Viswagendra and Gramium, we thank especially our faculties. N. Krishna Kumar IFS has given a valuable information, and Mr. Hari Bhai Puri, President CSR Bajaj Group, where he addressed very relevant information. I would like to express my great wishes and thanks to our son of soil, Dr. S. Jayaraman, Director, Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, expressed the current affairs related with agriculture. Added that Dr. Jairaj Dravyam, Senior Scientist and Head ICAR, Krishi Vigyan Kendra, has focused the crowd realities of sustainable agriculture. It is my duty to thank the webinar moderator, Chief Coordinator Controller, VYK, Mr. Uday Sankar Singh, and Mr. Ajit Kumar. The program host played a vital role to bring out the information to the participants, and the key role has taken by Mr. Rajit Thomas, the program coordinator. Finally, we thank all sector of participants to make success of this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Narayanji. I think without your team support and the support of Gramium, this program would not have been possible. I would like to thank once again all our speakers, all our well-wishers, participants, beneficiaries. We thank you for giving your time. And on the eve of Independence Day, I would wish you all a happy and a prosperous Independence Day. Let us keep our prayers with those of people who are affected due to the COVID, the floods, the rains, and the poor, the vulnerable. Let us keep this in mind. Let us strive forward, and the only way to grow is collectively. So on behalf of Vishwa Yuva Kendra and Gramium, we thank you all. We also thank the management of Vishwa Yuva Kendra and the Gramium management. I think without their help, this program would have not been possible. Thank you Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Jai
you.
Hind.
Namaskar.
Jai Hind.
Namaskar, Mr. Kumar ji.